When we think about courage, most of us picture it as, well, a feeling, right? Some kind of magical quality you're either born with or you're not. Something for heroes. But what if that's all wrong? What if courage isn't a feeling at all? What if it's a system, a repeatable process that you can actually design and execute, just like any other skill? Today, we're diving deep into the life of Amelia Earhart to uncover this radical philosophy she forged in the face of absolute terror. It's a rule that redefines courage, not as an emotion you wait for, but as a direction you choose. So how did a woman who once felt like a sack of potatoes become a global icon of fearlessness? Well, let's find out.
Our story kicks off right here, in 1928. Picture this. You're inside the noisy, rattling fuselage of a plane named Friendship. Amelia Earhart is about to make history as the first woman to cross the Atlantic by air. But here's the thing. She isn't flying the plane. She's a passenger. In her own words, she was just brought along as log. For almost a full day, she is completely trapped, battling crippling anxiety and airsickness, just a helpless observer as two male pilots navigate through treacherous fog and storms. This wasn't some moment of glory. It was a moment of absolute powerlessness. And it's right here, in this crucible, that the seed of her entire philosophy on courage was planted.
Let's really try to put ourselves in that moment. 20 hours. That's not a quick scare. That's a marathon of pure dread. Imagine the constant, deafening drone of the engines, the violent lurches, the turbulence, and nothing but that endless, gray, unforgiving Atlantic Ocean below you. Every single creak of the plane, every sputter of an engine, it could be the end. For 20 straight hours, she was just suspended between life and death, with nothing to do but sit there and confront her own fear. This wasn't just a flight, it was a profound psychological test.
And this gets to the absolute heart of her frustration. See, Amelia Earhart was a skilled pilot. She knew the instruments, the mechanics, the whole delicate dance of flying. But on this historic journey, she was stuck in the back, unable to touch the controls, unable to do anything. She famously said she felt like a sack of potatoes. And that wasn't just her being modest, that was the agony of a capable person being made completely powerless. The physical danger was real, for sure. But for her, the psychological torment of having no agency, no control, that was so much worse. Inside that cabin, fear wasn't just a quick spike of adrenaline. No, it was the very air she was breathing. It was a constant, suffocating companion. But somewhere over that vast, dark ocean, she had this revelation. She realized that giving in to the feeling of fear was a total dead end. It was paralyzing. It got her nowhere. So she made a choice. She couldn't pilot the plane, but she could pilot her own mind. She shifted her focus away from the terrifying emotion and onto the only thing that mattered, the objective, the destination, the direction the plane was heading.
So this entire experience forced her to ask a really fundamental question. What even is courage? Is it being fearless? Well, clearly not. Fear was right there with her for all 20 of those hours. Her ordeal proved that courage and fear can absolutely exist at the same time. The real question, the one she would spend the rest of her life answering, was this. So what do you do with the fear? Do you let it call the shots? Or do you build a system to manage it, to bypass it, and to act in spite of it?
To really understand her philosophy, we've got to rewind a bit. Her incredible mindset wasn't just born in the sky during that flight. It was forged piece by piece on the ground through years of instability, hard work, and a quiet, steely defiance. Earhart's early life was, well, it was a lesson in resilience. Her father's struggles led to a lot of financial instability, forcing the family to move constantly. This chaotic childhood taught her one thing loud and clear. You can't rely on anyone else for security, you have to build it yourself. That created this fierce independence in her, which was really a survival mechanism long before it was a personality trait. And remember, in an era when women were expected to be homemakers, Earhart was already charting a completely different course. And this right here shows you just how unwavering her commitment was. Flying was an incredibly expensive passion back then, so she worked. She took on these tough, unconventional jobs. She drove a gravel truck. She worked grueling hours as a social worker. Every single dollar she earned, every hour she toiled, was a deliberate step toward that cockpit. These jobs weren't just about money. They were her real-world training and discipline. They taught her that you don't achieve big goals by dreaming. You achieve them through systematic, relentless effort. So, the crucial lesson she learned on the ground, long before she was famous, was this. Courage isn't some big, dramatic, heroic act. It's the quiet, unglamorous daily labor of just showing up. It's getting in that truck when you're exhausted. It's saving one more dollar for one more flying lesson. It was that consistent, disciplined effort, day after day, that built the foundation for everything that was to come. Okay, so you take all of these experiences, the financial struggles, the tough jobs, and that absolutely terrifying flight across the Atlantic, and it all comes together. It coalesces into a single, powerful operating system for dealing with ambition and fear. This is what we call the Earhart Rule. And here it is, the core of her entire worldview, the Earhart Rule. Courage is a direction, not a feeling. It's a revolutionary idea, really, because it completely separates your actions from your emotions. It says you do not need to feel brave to act bravely. You just have to identify the right direction and then take the next logical step. It transforms courage from this elusive, fuzzy emotional state into a deliberate behavioral choice. It's about taking action first and letting the feeling follow. Now, this rule is built on 3 really actionable pillars. First up, the direction mandate. When you're overwhelmed by fear or just the huge scale of a challenge, you have to focus ruthlessly on the immediate next step. Not the whole journey, just the very next thing you have to do. Second, the anti-regret protocol. This totally reframes what failure even means. For Earhart, the only real failure was not even trying. The potential pain of regret was way worse than any physical risk. And third, risk analysis and mitigation. This is so key. Fear isn't some monster to be conquered. It's data. It's a signal telling you to analyze, plan, and prepare. She treated risk like a set of variables that could be systematically managed. But look, a philosophy is one thing, right? It's just words until you put it into practice. Earhart didn't just believe in this rule. She engineered her entire life around it, using concrete habits and systems to manage her fear and get things done. Her main system was this obsessive, meticulous preparation. I mean, for her historic 1932 solo Atlantic flight, she spent months just studying weather patterns, talking to meteorologists. She left no stone unturned. She worked with the best navigators, the best mechanical engineers, questioning everything. She didn't just have a plan A. She had researched and rehearsed dozens of backup plans for every conceivable failure point. This wasn't about eliminating risk, that's impossible. It was about mastering every single controllable variable, which has this powerful side effect of quieting the anxiety around the things you can't control. This lays out the difference perfectly. For most of us, a big challenge triggers an emotional reaction. Fear leads to anxiety, and anxiety often leads to just freezing up, paralysis. The Earhart system totally flips that script. For her, fear was a trigger for methodical analysis. Anxiety was a trigger for more preparation. And the threat of paralysis, that was shut down by immediate, focused action. It's a brilliant way to convert all that negative energy of fear into productive forward motion. Her second key system was something we can call the daily action over feeling protocol. This was all about her mental conditioning. It was about building psychological armor long before she ever stepped into the cockpit for a big flight. Think of it like building a callus on your hand. You don't get it from one day of hard work, right? You get it from repeated, sustained pressure over time. Earhart did this with her mind. She deliberately chose discomfort, waking up before dawn to study charts, taking on those physically draining jobs, pushing through exhaustion for one more pre-flight check. Each small act of choosing disciplined action over the feeling of comfort was like adding another layer to her mental callus. It built a resilience that made her unshakable when it truly mattered. And the result of this rule, of these systems, of all this relentless daily discipline, a complete and total transformation. She went from being this unknown enthusiast, a passenger, to a global symbol, not just of aviation, but of a whole new way of looking at human potential. Just look at this timeline. Her rise was absolutely meteoric. I mean, look at the dates. In 1928, she's the passenger, the sack of potatoes. Just 4 years later, in 1932, she flies that exact same ocean completely alone, the first woman in history to do it. By 1935, her name is known all across the globe, synonymous with fearless ambition. This wasn't luck. It wasn't a fluke. It was the direct, predictable output of her system in action.
So how did she do it? How did she achieve so much so fast? The answer really lies in her one-of-a-kind legacy. She, in effect, institutionalized courage. She's the one who took this abstract, mythical idea and broke it down into a repeatable process. She proved that these extraordinary achievements aren't born from some superhuman fearlessness, but from meticulous preparation, calculated risk, and the relentless daily discipline of just taking the next step. So, what's the ultimate lesson from the Earhart Rule?
How can we apply this systematic approach to courage in our own lives with our own challenges, far away from the cockpit of a 1930s airplane? Well, it all comes down to a simple but really profound shift in perspective. This is the essential takeaway. Earhart taught us to treat fear not as a big red stop sign, but as a compass. The needle is pointing you somewhere. So when you feel that fear, don't run from it. Look at it, interrogate it. See it as a signal that's pointing you directly toward the area where you need to prepare more, to analyze more, to plan more. Fear is just information. Use that information to control what you can, so you can move forward with confidence into the unknown.
Amelia Earhart built her entire legacy on the truth that fear is merely information. The Earhart Rule isn't just a story from the past. It's a timeless blueprint for transforming our own uncertainty into systematic, courageous action. It reminds us all that we don't have to wait to feel brave. We don't have to be born a hero. We just have to choose the direction, and the feeling will follow.